are, Keith, on the third Monsters. Monsters
Monsters
of
Rock, Monsters of Gods, Gods of Monsters.
Gods of Monsters.
Yeah. August Bank Holiday weekend.
Exactly.
That brings back some memories. Maybe that's for another day.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'd say before we get onto an introduction to the show and who's on and stuff like that, you mentioned some today, which is, I completely forgot about. It's Reading.
Yeah, Reading weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think next weekend we do a bit of Reading stories, Reading bands.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, 3 days of mayhem for many a year.
Try and get home the Monday.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was the Tuesday.
Yeah, and the 6 hours in the car park trying to get home.
Yeah,
so,
wading through the mud.
Yeah, quite enjoyable this because we picked sort of 2 years of that we both felt were cracking years for
the formative
albums.
years, weren't they?
Yeah.
I suppose. A time we were, certainly from my point of view, you were actually beginning to find your own, or my own, musical identity. A lot of bands that I was sort of getting into for the first time, through one way or another.
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't have what we have these days, where you just push a button and listen to someone. You read reviews.
Yeah.
You picked up your copy of Sounds from Smiths.
Yeah.
On a Wednesday, was it, or a Thursday? And you read the reviews, and you'd lend albums, you'd tape albums. So for me, I think 1972.
72
was probably where it all started, in a lot of respects.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I'd gone for 78.
Okay.
It was a toss-up between 77 and 78.
Yeah.
But I fell on 78.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because I could remember more albums than I could than 77.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think back, and I was, well, for 11 months and 4 days, I was 14 in 1972. So you don't have much money, you have a bit of pocket money. So mostly the stuff I bought was singles.
Right, yeah.
Stuff that might be in the charts. There was a shop in Wrexham, Budget Records, I think it was called.
Budget, yeah, I remember Budget.
He did ex-jukebox stuff. And probably, I don't know, 15, 20p was it? I can't remember what, but that was usually what you bought.
If I remember correctly, did some of the ex-jukebox stuff have the bit in the middle missing?
Yeah, they didn't have the...
And then you could buy the little plastic things.
You could buy the little plastic things to stick in between.
Yeah.
I mean, these days, a lot of stereos and decks come with one.
Yeah.
It's like a solid one that you can...
Slip on, yeah.
Just put the 7-inch single around it.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of stuff that I was buying with singles, but I had a mate, Nigel his name was, lived around the corner from me. He was probably, so I'd have been about 14. He'd probably been about 16, maybe 17. He was really into his music, so I took a lot of my influences or stuff that I could access from him.
Yeah.
He'd have albums and whatever, or he'd tape stuff. Because he went to the Grove Park.
Oh, so he had a bit more money as well.
Probably, but it's weird because I have a few mates, people I've met over the last few years, who went to Grove Park School. I went to St David's Secondary School, but there was a lot more of those lads were into the music, or they're into progressive rock, hard rock, whereas St David's seems to be more of like a soul school, if you want. A lot of kids in the Northern Soul, which I wasn't, and there was a hardcore of about 6 or 7 of us who were into ELP, Mott, Hoople, and all that sort of stuff, It's
interesting what you say about schools being into different types of music. I think coming around Wrexham and stuff and growing up around Wrexham, you almost find the different parts of Wrexham, because I grew up in Guernsey, it was very much punk and rock.
Yeah.
You'd never see anybody walking out with a Saturday Night Fever album under their Afghan.
Well, they wouldn't for long, would they?
No,
not in Guernsey.
Wouldn't have lasted.
Well, I can remember when I started working for Alan Hughes in his record shop about, I don't know how long it'll be now, 7, 8 years ago. He had all the new vinyl and a load of second-hand stuff. And I said to him, how come you maybe not a little bit more expansive in what you've got? I said, there's loads of really good stuff out there. And I mean, knew the business. He'd been in it for years and years, hadn't he?
Yeah.
He'd had Phase 1 and Rabbit Records, I think it was, and all sorts of other little shops. And he said, because this here is what people in Wrexham buy. DC, Gallagher, Purple, Zeppelin. from the rock side of
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
It was you not stereotypical, but it was your classic rock.
Yeah.
And that was quite interesting, really. But he was right.
And even most of the pubs that put bands on, they were rock bands.
Yeah, and I think that was a nationwide thing. Probably in the early 80s, I think a lot of bands, as you say, played classic rock.
Yeah.
Bad Company, DC,
Yeah.
Purple.
All the favourites.
Yeah, and that's what people wanted on a
Yeah.
Friday or a Saturday night. And there's still some going around still doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and doing it very well. But yeah, so that's how what I'm getting to is, so I had a lot of mates who had older brothers, and you'd go around to their house and they'd have their record. I remember going to Steve Gordon's house and his brothers, Mike and Alan. They had, I always remember Van de Graaff Generator,
Right.
just the album cover.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, John Martin.
Right.
Solid Air, I think it might have been, or Inside Out. And then, so Steve would sort of have stuff off them in his bedroom, and you go around at night and you'd listen to Dark Side of the Moon. I remember him having the Age of Atlantic sampler.
Right.
Now I love the samplers, I've got about 5 or 6 at home. And one of the first, I think the very first one I bought, and it was from Budget Records, was one called LP.
Right.
ELPEA, and had a big P on the front. It was an island sampler, so we had Mott, Hoople on it, Nick Drake, Traffic, Jethro Tull, Free, just all these bands on the island label, and it gave you a taste of what was on the label and what you could go out and buy. So I think that was one of my early influences, and you know, I can remember when all the Young Dudes came out, that was obviously 72. I actually went out and bought the album. So I've got to have it. I got a single. I really like it. Opened up. Was it Sweet Jane, Velvet Underground? And obviously Dudes was written by Bowie for them. So I'm guessing that was probably one of the very first albums I bought. I think the first one I bought was Bowl and Boogie, which I think we've talked about previously.
Yeah.
You know, then it just starts leading on. Another mate in school was into Argent. Huge fan of Argent, and so all of a sudden you start listening to God Gave Rock and Roll to You, which I've got to say, and I know you'll disagree with me, Kiss absolutely destroyed it. It's different, changed the words, changed a lot, but I'm sure Russ Ballard was quite happy with the royalties.
Yeah, no, well, excuse me, all over the postcodes of North Wales for liking that single gig, but I do like it. I do like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know, their album altogether now, that jumped into my collection.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of them. It's got a really nice package, and I've still got it. It's got a booklet in the middle, and it's nice. So what were your sort of early albums?
Well, you know, I dived into 78 really. So there's some, for me, there's quite a few sort of standouts of that year, right? And we can talk a bit about them after.
Yeah.
Van Halen's first, cracking album.
Tell you what's come out. Sorry to interrupt you. I found a link today off a mate of mine. The Van Halen set of Monsters of Rock.
Oh, right.
In '84 has just surfaced on YouTube.
Has it?
Yeah.
I'd be interested. I'll catch that.
That's
so
a buy.
Yeah. Never Say Die.
Oh, Sabbath.
Yeah.
You know, I've never heard it.
Have you not?
Was that Ozzy's last album?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And it was a bit of an album where he was on it. Then they got another singer in for a while, which is the guy from Fleetwood Mac. His name's going to come back to me in a minute. To do a couple of tracks. Then Ozzy come back.
Okay.
Because Ozzy had gone in a bad place because his dad was dying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he'd gone even more off the rails than fucking Ozzy can do. So there's that X-Ray Spex.
Yeah.
Another cracking album. If You Want Blood.
Yeah.
Solid. And then you got Parallel Lines. Deco.
Okay. But Blondie, not a band I ever. Did you go and see them at D-Side?
No,
they weren't a band I ever really.
Never seen them.
Really got into.
And I wouldn't want to go and see them now.
No.
I think if I missed me.
I think there comes a point with some bands.
Yeah, don't you think it's not worth it? You know, Who Are You? You know, the Diva I just mentioned, and Rainbow, Long Live Rock and Roll.
It was a great album.
And I think out of all those albums, you know, fucking, where are we now? 40 years later? must be 40 odd years later, I still play them all.
No, it's 50.
50. I still play them all regularly on a weekly
Yeah.
basis.
Actually, mine's 51 years
Right.
ago, I think, these.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
who's on your shopping list of the Great and Good from 72?
Machine Head. Deep
Oh,
Purple.
get
You
in.
know,
Get in.
it's a great album.
Yeah.
Great album. I mean, I probably didn't buy it at the time. Didn't have any money. But what I sort of started doing was spending my dinner money.
Yeah, it was classic, wasn't it?
Yeah. So on a Monday,
Yeah.
I'd probably make some excuse to me, Mum, I'll be late home today or whatever. Walk into Wrexham, go down to Budget Records and buy an album.
Yeah.
And then I'd be hungry for the rest of the week.
It's just dawned on me now why I was thin at school.
Yeah, never ate.
Yeah, because
I had breakfast and tea. I had nothing in the middle.
I had cornflakes for breakfast, an album for lunch.
Yeah. But then you'd sort of like walk in with this album.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that from? Oh, I've lent it off whoever.
Yeah.
As the collection in my record case. All these albums I apparently have never returned. Yeah. So Machine Head was like a great album, and I'm guessing I probably heard it at a mate's house.
Yeah. What sort of gets you in that album then that you think makes it a good standout for you?
Well, it's got 3 or 4 killer tracks. There's obviously Smoke on the Water,
Yeah.
Highway Star, Space Trucking, Lazy.
Yeah.
Then is it Maybe I'm a Leo, Pictures of Home and Never Before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which are good songs in their own right, but it's not my favourite Purple album
Which is your favourite?
in rock.
Right.
Which I did get probably, I may well have bought it around this time, 72, 73.
Yeah.
And it's got my favourite Deep Purple track on it, Flight of the Rat.
Right.
Again, not a song, I don't even know if they ever played it live, but
I
for
don't
me...
even think I've ever heard it live.
No, but it's I mean, I just think In Rock is a great album. I think it's better than Machine Head, but there you go. There's not a lot to choose between them. And then was the other Purple album that was released that year was Made in Japan.
Right.
Which again, my favourite live album.
Yeah. Now, interestingly, I sort of like you thought that it was just the vocals that had been re-recorded for that album. So I was speaking to Crusher this week, and the entire album was recorded in the studio.
What, in rock?
Yeah. Not
Sorry,
in rock.
in Japan?
Yeah, the whole
Really?
fucking album. And it's taken me 60 years to find that out, and I only found it out this week.
Bloody hell.
The entire album. It's not a live album.
It's not a live album.
Yeah. Went back and just re-recorded it. What is live is the audience.
Bloody hell.
And that was a bit of a shocker, that.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
No, that's... Thanks for that, Viv.
Yeah, thanks for that, Crusher.
Yeah.
For fucking ruining our week.
Yeah, our lives.
Yeah. Never will I listen to another live album again.
Well, I mean, we know that there are overdubs on a lot of them, and stuff gets re-recorded.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's, a lot of the favourite live albums, there will be lots of work on that after it's been done.
But I didn't know that about
No, I didn't.
In Rock.
I didn't.
So, shit. Made in Japan.
Made in Japan. Yeah. Because he was saying that when he was at Kerrang, they'd have other bands coming in, like famous bands, and they'd be saying, one of my favourite albums is
Made in Japan.
Made in Japan. And they say, well, it's not live,
And who told him that?
I don't know, we can ring him and ask him. Cross here, mate, sorry to drag you away.
Yeah, you're really pissing us off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I was almost, that time as well, I was getting into a bit of, I suppose, prog rock and whatever. And again, I knew a couple of lads who were into ELP.
Yeah, yeah.
And that they've all, up until and after probably brain salad surgery, they've always appealed to me. I mean, they were hated by a lot of the press. I mean, Charles Shaw Murray absolutely crucified them. I think when they released, might have been brain salad surgery. And yeah, I get it. It was overblown, it was pompous, but it was bloody good. And I think that's sometimes what rock's about. It's got to be a bit overblown, it's got to be a bit, not necessarily in your face, but a lot of it was quite tongue-in-cheek, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Emerson crawling all over his Hammond, stabbing it with knives. Yeah, and I think if you're taking that seriously, then I think you may be missing the point a little bit.
Yes, it's a show, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. It is a show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Trilogy. I think that was a 72 album.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that. That's what's it, The Endless Enigma, The Sheriff, Living Sin. I think, yeah, Living Sin on side 2. That's quite a heavy track. It's like a weird effect over Greg Lake's voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool album.
I've gotten to prog a lot later in life than I did, you know, when it was at its height and it was out there. But the one thing that always got me about prog albums, and especially anything that prog album that Roger Dean had done, I always found their album covers. I always preferred them. Prog bands, they just had great covers.
Oh, they did have great covers.
Yeah.
And you're going back to sort of stuff you got into later. I mean, again, I guess in 70, what was your year, 79?
78.
78. You were probably, what, 15?
Yeah.
14, 15. Same as you could only buy so many albums.
Yeah.
You didn't have the luxury of being able to have this, I'll have that, unless you were loaded.
Yeah.
And we certainly weren't. And so you just had to either tape stuff, and a lot of the time I go somewhere and I can remember buying metal. I was a bit after this. I think I was about 15. I think it was in 73. I had a summer job cutting grass for the council, and I bought metal from Smith's because it was in a sale. It was cheap at Pink Floyd. And I bought Pictures at an Exhibition by ELP, right, because that was a budget-priced album. That was going to be a partner album to the trilogy. They wanted to release it as a double, but Ireland said no, we just want you to release a single album. So, but what they did do was release Pictures at an Exhibition for £1.49.
Wow.
And so that was out. So that's what I bought. So what it meant was I could buy 2 albums.
Yeah.
So I think around 70, it was probably about £2.10, £2.20 for an album. For a new album.
Yeah, I remember paying 59p for Relics.
Yeah, you will have done because it was on a budget label, wasn't it? And you used to get there was one, Warner Brothers did a sampler, 74, 75 maybe. I think the Doobies were on it, Tower of Power, Kokomo. I think Montrose might have been on it, and that was 59p. It had a picture of the cartoon of Bugs Bunny on the front. And I've still got mine. Yeah.
I was listening to some Montrose today, actually, this morning.
First album's a classic, isn't it?
Yeah, love it.
I think that's my favourite. I wasn't that fussed with Sammy Hagar in Van Halen. Didn't really interest me, but with Montrose, thought he was great.
Yeah, well, look, when I started art college in '79, and I swapped. I had a black folder for carrying your work around, and I swapped it with a guy called, I think it was Al, I think his name was, for Space Station number 9, Space Station number 5.
Number 9. That's on the first album, isn't it?
Yeah, swapped it for that single.
Yeah. That's a good deal.
Yeah,
but yeah, you know, you think about, you used to do swaps, though, didn't you? You'd swap albums.
Yeah.
I remember swapping. I had Transformer by Lou Reed.
Right.
Which I have again. But I swapped it for Too Much Too Soon by the New York Dolls with Tony Durbin. And I mean, Transformers, another great album released in '72. And it's got I think Mick Ronson's on it. I think Bowie and Ronson produced it. There's some cracking stuff on it. Some really good stuff on Transformer. Probably is that and New York. Is it New York City? But another Lou Reed album. Probably my favourite albums by Lou. Did you hear him with the Lulu album?
No.
With Lou Reed with Metallica?
No.
Okay, that's different.
Is it?
Yeah. It got a fair beating.
Did it?
By the critics, yeah.
Is it worth a listen to, though?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because there's loads and loads of words on it. You know, and yeah, I quite like it. It's not the sort of thing you brush your teeth to in the morning, but it's the sort of thing, if you give it a listen and maybe another couple of listens, it can, some of it's a bit hard work, but no, I like it.
No, I'll check that out.
I do like it. I really do.
But I think there was a lot of that period, and even some of the stuff that I picked here with Dave and stuff. There was a lot of that sort of New York feel to music.
Yeah, there was.
That
especially around '78.
Yeah, it was
you had bands like Television,
yeah,
Richard Hell, all those bands coming out of CBGBs,
yeah,
Talking Heads.
Yeah.
You know, it was Patti Smith.
Yeah.
New York Dolls had come around in 74, I think it was, 73, 74.
Yeah.
So it was changing, wasn't it? You could
Yeah.
see the changes then.
And it was a lot different to the music that was happening over here.
Oh, it was.
I felt.
Yeah.
Even the punk and
It
the
was,
post-punk stuff,
yeah,
it was
definitely.
different. It was different.
I've been to CBGB's.
Have you?
Yeah, didn't see anyone there. It was open. We were in New York, about 2007, 2008, and we came across CBGB's. It was open in the afternoon.
You gotta go.
Had my photo taken on the stage, as close as I'll ever get. But yeah, it was a shithole.
Yeah,
It was a real dive, but ideal for what it was. You know, it was a massive cultural venue, if you like.
Oh, it's a catalyst.
Yeah,
for
for so many bands.
Yeah, the Ramones just.
Yeah, of course.
You know.
Yeah, the Ramones. Yeah,
Yeah.
so an interesting little place, and there were stickers everywhere. Bands had just left their stickers here, and
Oh, fucking great.
yeah.
I bet you could smell the history.
Oh, you
in there,
could. I
couldn't
mean,
you?
it's just so grimy, and I think I've got a feeling weeks after that it closed down.
Did it?
After we were there, yeah. And I think it might even have been closed when we were there. It was just that the doors were open.
So you just had to wander
Just
in.
went in, yeah.
Should have chiseled some stuff off the walls, mate.
Well, when you think back, yeah.
Because I suppose if we're going slightly off topic here, but I think if you think of there and the Cavern, you know, as like iconic
Yeah, they are.
places,
Yeah.
then you've got a few in London, but there's not many.
You had the
more, is
Marquee,
there?
didn't you?
Yeah, you got the Marquee.
You know, but that's moved. You know, I mean, a lot of these venues, they're just not what. I mean, we went to San Francisco in 2010 to see the Black Crowes at the Fillmore West. Saw them twice in about 4 nights. They were doing a run, and it's so small. I mean, it's a hell of a venue. Got all the old 60s and 70s posters up on the balcony.
Yeah.
All the original posters, the Doors, Jefferson Airplane, you know, all those sort of bands from the 60s. And it's not a big venue.
Yeah.
You expect, I don't know, for some reason, you just expect them to be bigger than they are.
We should do a podcast just on venues.
Oh, we will
I
do,
think.
definitely. Because I think we've been to enough between us.
Yeah, that'll be a good.
Yeah. You see, the other thing I was into at 72, I was into the glam stuff. Loved
Yeah,
T-Rex.
Yeah.
Loved T-Rex. I mean, the Slider was a great album. Loved the Slider. Ziggy Stardust, The Spiders from Mars.
Yeah.
Had that on the other night, and it's an absolute belting album. Because then you had Roxy Music.
Yeah.
Their first album, I think,
Yeah.
was 72. And Virginia Plain wasn't on it. Because that was the single, that was their first single, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did really well in the charts. But it never actually found its way onto an album. It might be on the greatest hits.
Yeah.
But it wasn't on the first album.
Well, we saw them last year in
That's right, I remember you posting something, yeah.
in the arena in Manchester, and it was just excellent. It was
Yeah.
excellent. But that whole glam period of that sort of 70s and stuff, I was just slayed through and through.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was one of those things, wasn't it? It was either Slade or T-Rex.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the feeling you got.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was like that time you know, you would either like The Who or the Beatles. You
Or
know,
the Stones or the Beatles or
Yeah,
whatever.
oh, that-
So of
yeah.
course, 70s, you had Exile on Main Street.
Yeah.
Another storming album.
Yeah.
Which got panned. I was reading about it a few weeks ago, and it actually got panned by the critics when it got released. So it was too long, too much filler. I think it's a great album.
Yeah.
You know, there are a couple of tracks that maybe wouldn't have made a single album, but I just think it's so good.
Yeah, of course.
You know, considering the state some of them are in.
Yeah. Yeah, and they probably don't even remember doing half the stuff. But I think again we were sort of lucky. You know, you look at the albums that's in your year and mine. We had so much quality to choose from. You know, like
Oh, we did, yeah.
My stuff is rock, it's heavy metal, it's punk, it's American
It's
new
new wave, yeah.
You couldn't buy everything, as you
No,
said.
you couldn't.
There was just too much good stuff out there.
You'd tape stuff.
Yeah.
You'd lend stuff.
Yeah. Well, I used to get my cassette out and tape the old grey whistle test off the telly.
I used to tape the top 20 on a Sunday evening.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what you did. I can remember, I know I was still in school, So it's probably it'll be about 74. They used to have on BBC, it was on the radio, it must have been on Radio 1. They used to have an in concert series, and they had Deep Purple Coverdale version with Blackmore. Is that Mark 3? I don't know. They had them live playing at the Kilburn Gormont, and I taped it.
Yeah.
Had it on tape for years.
Yeah.
Kept it. Then it came out on vinyl.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. You know that.
That's how you did it.
Yeah. Yeah, because we didn't have Spotify, we didn't have any of that stuff.
Right, no, you had the radio.
Yeah.
You had the music press.
Yeah.
Which was basically Sound's NME melody maker. Then you had like the little magazines like Disc.
Yeah.
Was it Disc 45 or something? But I think those were, and you used to get another one that had all the lyrics to loads of songs in.
I don't even remember that one.
Yeah. And
mind you, I couldn't read at that age.
No, and there were no pictures.
No.
Then you used to get, Tesco had a record label called Avenue.
Oh, bloody hell,
Right.
yes.
Well, I don't know if it was Tesco's record label, but they sold 6-track singles of cover versions of bands covering stuff that was in the charts. And I've still got a couple of those. So you just buy stuff.
Yeah.
It was, again, they were cheap.
Yeah. And what I used to do, because I could paint, I used to paint a lot of people's back of the jackets, the denim jackets.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So I used to get an album or a couple of singles for doing that.
Yeah.
So I'd paint a Rainbow Rise on the back of somebody's denim. And that's why I got a lot of tickets as well. Because I'll say, well, I'll paint you, but get me a gig for this and stuff. So,
yeah, that's good.
I never thought of asking for money.
No.
I'll have an album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have a couple of singles or whatever it was, you know. So,
back to the prog stuff I was listening to. I mean, you had Foxtrot by Genesis.
Yeah.
That and Sell in England, my two favourite Genesis albums.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was another one of these once Gabriel went. I'm pretty much done with them.
Yeah.
I saw them in '78. I think me and Ian went. Me and Ian Johnson.
Where was that at?
Nebworth.
Right.
Hard work.
Yeah.
It was all, again, another long day.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that much stuff that they were playing. There was quite a lot of sort of newish stuff.
Yeah.
So I think they might have done. Did they do Watcher of the Skies or Supper's Ready from Foxtrot? But Tom Petty was there. That was your Devo were at Nebworth.
Right.
Yeah, and they got bottled off.
Yeah.
They didn't last very long,
No.
unfortunately. But just sort of looking at a couple of other albums that I wasn't really aware of at all then, but have become quite. I mean, sort of favourite albums of mine. There's the band called Big Star.
Yeah. Don't know them.
Alex Chilton was the front man. Used to be with the Box Tops.
Right.
Released an album in '72 called Number One Record, and it's an absolute belter, melodic rock, almost power pop. And again, it's one of those that didn't sell many. But I guess as the decade went on and time went on, people started to realise how influential it was. I think I got a re-release on some. I think it's on Ace. The mate Paul gave it me. But it's a great album. Absolute great album. And then there's this other guy from Yorkshire, Michael Chapman. Picked up an album of his only in the last 5 or 6 years called Savage Amusement. Nothing to do with the Scorpions. That's really good. And I tell you who's on drums on that album is Keith Hartley. Right. Who we were having a little natter off.
Yeah.
Off podcast a few weeks ago, and he plays drums on it.
Right.
But good album, really good album. So yeah, so there was loads of stuff in '72. You know, Sailing Shoes by Little Feat.
Yeah.
Another great album.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't get it at the time. I was probably in my 20s when I bought that, possibly later.
Yeah.
But, you know, because but I do like going back to stuff I've missed. You know, I'll buy stuff now from the late 60s, early 70s that I didn't get around to buying back in the day.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
Yeah. Because I find I'm going back now a lot more to listen to a lot of the 70s stuff that passed me by. Little Feat you mentioned to me a while back.
Yeah, we talked about it a few weeks ago, didn't we?
Really into them. I'm going back to really delving into a lot of that stuff.
That's
really
good fun.
listening to
And I suppose that's the other side of it now. It's so much easier.
Yeah.
You can actually say, oh, right, I'll check these out. There was a band that Robert Plant he's always bigged up called Moby Grape. You know, you read up on their first album, it's a Stonewall classic. And I managed to pick up an American copy for £8. Gave it a clean, and it plays pretty well, in fairness.
Yeah.
But what an album! The second album, shit.
Yeah.
I bought it.
It was a bit like our podcast.
yeah. Crashed and burnt after one, after two. And I bought it. I sold it. I got rid of it. But the first album's an absolute classic, absolutely superb. So yeah, I just find that I love doing that sort of thing. Just checking out old stuff. You read about, you know. I think I must have read an interview with Robert Plant, and I know he's gone on about Moby Grape on a few occasions. I think, well, he's got reasonable taste.
Yeah, if it's good enough for him.
Yeah.
Well,
so you know there's got to be
toe in the water.
That's right. You know, and I just think it's a good way these days to check out a lot of bands.
Yeah.
But I just don't know whether we were coming home from somewhere. We've been over to Oswald Street, and the something on Six Music. That was fucking garbage. And Karen said to me, she said, "Who is going to buy this? Who is going to sit down and think this is a classic?" And not everything can be a classic. We get that, but it was awful.
Yeah.
And I just think no. But someone will download that. They'll pay 89p, download it, put it on the phone, and never listen to it again. Because I don't know how many people. Oh God, this sounds a bit I'm not sounding like my dad here, but how many people actually listen to a full album?
There's going to be a lot of numbers of people who do listen, but I bet the majority now it's just quick fixes now. Look, a couple of tracks there, a couple of tracks there.
Yeah, do they put up? Do they? I mean, yeah, it's easy enough to download a whole album on Amazon.
Yeah,
that's what I use because I need it for my car because I don't have a CD player in it. But
I've got a record player on my back seat. Jumps a bit when you go for speed bumps,
but it's all right. Yeah,
it's all right.
Yeah, you just go careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how many people will actually sit and listen to a whole album.
Yeah.
I know there are people who will.
Yeah.
As you say, but
for me the thing is I remember with excitement, you know, in '78 going to buy just anyone if you want blood, yeah, and then just going home and just playing it.
And playing it.
Then your mates would come round, then you'd play it.
Yeah.
And you'd play it.
Yeah. I was in your. I mean, I think that's. I mean, I'll buy an album these days, and I'll listen to it. I'll enjoy it. I'll play it. I couldn't tell you the track listing.
Yeah.
On a lot of the stuff I buy these days.
Yeah.
But when you're young, that's what you did, wasn't it? You knew the.
You knew who photographed.
Yeah, you did.
You knew the sound engineer.
Yeah, you knew the producer, the engineer. Yeah, you did.
You just read it all.
You knew who'd organised the strings or the brass section or whatever it was.
Yeah. Because
you were just. That was how it. Yeah, just how it was. You were just like a sponge for
stuff like
that.
Yeah. And I get stick at work now because I'll buy CDs or stuff like that, and then I say, well, you know, where do you read if you just don't. What? How do you know?
No, you don't know anything, do you?
Don't know
who's been on it,
come from, or anything, you know.
And I'm a sucker for that. I love to know.
Yeah.
Because every now and again, it's like with that Michael Chapman album I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Got all the credits. Oh, the hell, Keith Hartley's on drums.
Yeah.
That's all right. I love all that sort of stuff. Yeah. You know.
Sorry, just on the Chapman thing. Who was the singer with Family?
Roger Chapman. Right, now there's another band, 72.
Yeah.
Burlesque. Did that come out in 72? The single, I think it did. Remember him being on Top of the Pops doing Burlesque, and Chapo had a bottle of wine with him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was in the studio or if it was a film the BBC had made. But what a voice!
Well, weirdly enough, we were watching recently A Midsummer Murder.
Yeah.
Right, and Barnaby goes, I've got to go down to my favourite bands on from the past. Fucking Family.
No.
Yeah, they're on A Midsummer Murder.
No.
Yeah, headline in the Village Fete.
Now that's weird. Hang on. we used to go to a festival in Bedford called the Rhythm Festival.
Right.
We went about 4 or 5 times. Tell you what, there's some John Mayall there,
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah.
John, some big star. There's some really, really good stuff there.
Yeah.
And Roger Chapman was there one year. Now, when we were at one of them, they were filming A Midsummer Night's Murder in the arena.
I wonder if it's that.
Gotta be.
We'll
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we'll Google it because it.
Yeah, because they
we'll
were. I mean, they were filming it a little bit off centre, but
Yeah.
everyone was there. But you went, you know, they asked you not to go, but they were actually filming part of Midsummer Night Murder during the festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you that's when.
Yeah, I bet we'll look into
Oh, we'll check that out
We'll
after.
look that.
I love all that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
see, because
I
our
love
listeners
it.
will be keen on
You
that.
go down the rabbit hole and
Yeah.
hey.
Our prog Midsummer Murder fans will be there. Like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but there's one of the albums that I wanted to just mention about from 78, and I don't meet that many people who get into. I've got to make Paul in Manchester who had the album as well, but was X-Ray Spex, Germ-Free Adolescence.
Yeah.
What a fucking punk album that is.
Don't know much about them.
Have you not?
No.
See, this is
Educate me.
A good thing about doing this podcast. When we finish this, I go with a list of about 20 bands off you that I think I've got to listen to them.
Likewise,
I've got to listen to them. So you'll know Bondage up yours.
Well, everyone.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'd say everybody, but
Yeah. And you know, and I think that is probably one of the best punk tracks outside of anything from the Pistols. And I think we've talked about this in the past, but the guitarist had the best name, I think,
Oh,
ever.
was it something television used?
No, close. Airport.
Oh, Airport.
Jack Airport.
Jack Airport.
Now, anybody who's called Jack Airport, you're destined for one thing. You're either destined to work for the council, not the stick for it down here, or you join a punk band.
Yeah. Jack
But he ended up. I read about 12 months ago that he ended up being like a PR manager in the BBC.
Okay.
He just turned his back on music and.
I think a lot of them do, don't they?
Yeah.
They do their bit. They have their 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever they have,
Yeah.
and then they returned some of them to fairly normal lives.
Yeah. And I think for me, that's why I think 78 worked for me, because you'd have X-Ray Spex, yeah. You'd have If You Want Blood, which is just full of energy from the first to the last track. It's just rocks. You know, filmed at, recorded at the Apollo in Glasgow. So when we do venues, I think that place.
Iconic.
Just, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think any
absolutely.
Apollo for me.
Yeah.
Works. And then you'd have Sabbath, but then Devo. Just such a great band. Listen to him today. And Bowie was a big fan, and he was putting it around that he was going to produce that album.
Okay.
I think he mentioned it on stage, he goes, "At this tour I'm doing Devo." But they give it to Brian Eno.
Okay. Oh right. Roxy Music. Yeah.
Yeah, to do it. And I think when you listen to, some of the tracks in there, you can see that it's great songwriting, it's great musicianship, but the whole way it's been put together, it's come from a brain, and it's come from a brain that gets music and gets it. The way they do Satisfaction, belting track, absolutely great on that. Favourite on the album, I have to say, is Mongoloid. Just such a...
Yeah, that was one that I think everybody seemed to know, didn't they?
Yeah,
definitely.
But there's Johnny Olmo. It's just full of classic tracks. And the going back to album covers, the album's iconic. It's got the guy with the trilby on and stuff like that.
That's it.
So when they were looking for ideas, they were on road trip. They were on tour around America, and one of the band members, I don't know which one, bought some sunglasses off a rack in the thing.
Okay.
And that head was the top of the sunglasses rack.
Ah, right.
And they took it off.
Used it on their cover.
That's when they got it from, And that's just for me.
Because they wore all the weird kit, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like,
with the hats.
Space helmets and all sorts of stuff. And,
brilliant band.
yeah.
I've got loads of Devo t-shirts.
Oh, really? I didn't know you were a fan. I had no idea.
Yeah, big Devo.
Yeah.
Big Devo fan. And I think for me, that's why that year worked for me, because you could go anyway.
Well, you could, yeah.
Couldn't you? You could go some really clever sort of
it
punk,
really changed by then, didn't it?
Yeah. And then I think you know, 77 was great, you know, but I think 78 and then 79 for me wasn't quite as good as the 78 either, you know. But it's a hard call, isn't it? When you say
it is,
pick a year from the 70s.
I mean, 72 for me was, as I said at the start of the podcast, it was just when I was maybe starting to find my own musical identity, if you like.
Yeah.
And it was stuff that you're just starting to get, and I'm not saying you're moving away from what you hear on the radio, but you're just starting to, as I say, form your own identity. I guess your mates are starting to buy records, or not.
Yeah.
So then you're getting all their stuff that they've bought, and quite often I can remember you go to town with a mate and say, "Look, I'll buy this album, you buy that."
Yeah.
And we'll take them.
Yeah.
Which is how we did it.
Well, I did a mate called Ev. So there used to be a record shop in the Quick Save in
They did.
Gwersald.
They did.
Right. And Ev sussed out that if I went to buy an album, right, I would be blocking him from the Wumberg, the counter, from the rock section. Right. We all wore big long Afghan cuts in that time, didn't they? So we used to decide what 2 albums we wanted. We'd go halves on the first one. While I was buying it, Ev would take the other one under the coat.
Oh.
So we used to get 2 albums for the price of one. That's Gwersald for you. But I just remember somewhere you were talking there. Do you ever remember what was? It was a great source of inspiration for me. Peter Cook's show, Revolver. Now, not many people remember this, and I
don't think I
Google it on YouTube. So it was the punk equivalent, right, of the Old Grey Whistle test.
Okay, no, I don't remember that.
And it's where they first aired on that, My Way, the Sex Pistols, when Sid Vicious shot the audience. That's the first time I ever saw that video, was on that.
Well, Tony Wilson used to do something, didn't he, on Granada?
Yeah.
Had punk bands on.
Yeah.
I think what it was called now. I did have it, but it's gone. But yeah, so he did something.
Yeah.
Then obviously he had Factory Records.
That's right.
He?
Yeah.
Joy Division and.
Yeah, but check Revolver, because Peter Cook would be absolutely slaughtered on every single show. You know, just be great. And then the Tube come along a bit later.
The Tube, which was great. Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Some great stuff on that.
Yeah. So, should we get down to Steve's then?
Yeah.
Do you know what, Kate? I think a couple of things. I think I'd like to do this again, another couple of years.
Another year. Yeah.
Another couple of years, I think would be quite interesting.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of years.
Yeah.
We've been here for a few years, so we've got plenty to choose from.
Yeah.
But for me, I think 67 to about 73, 74 is what probably the stuff I listen to the most.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I do buy new stuff.
Yeah.
I'm forever getting new stuff and new bands, but mostly the stuff I listen to these days is coming out of America.
Yeah, because I know you like
Americana stuff, and
yeah.
There is stuff that's been released over here that I listen to, that I buy, but generally I tend to like a lot of stuff that comes out of the States.
And the newest stuff that I'm attracted to has a feel of a legacy from that period. Like we've been starting to listen to, the pair of us actually, there's Wicked Rivers, and it's got that sort of Americana.
It has, isn't it? And they even look it.
Yeah.
With the beards and is it the coat hanger they take around with them or something?
Yeah. So,
not the coat hanger, the hat stand.
The hat stand.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah. So so right, we'll
go and see Mr. Bellis.
We'll go down and see Mr. Bellis. Well, let's get down there.
Cool. Nice one.